All right, guys and gals, we are back for the first time in years with Scoop Squad. Unfortunately, I'm the only person in the Scoop Squad who is where I'm at, but I am trying to revitalize this channel and bring it up so that we can get a strong following of people out here trying to play these bum decks. Me personally, anyways, I always play bum decks, but everything in existence. So, yeah, today I'm gonna bring y'all a Flower Cardian deck profile. Haven't played it in a while. Flower Cardians don't really get any inadvertent support in most sets, so it's a little bit more complicated when it comes to trying to find new support. So most of it's timeless, fortunately enough. Also, you don't really play too much outside of the Flower Cardian package, save in my side deck, which isn't completely formed, but get to that later. Anyways, here we are with my 40 card Flower Cardian deck. First card we're going to talk about, Flower Cardian Pine. I mean, obvious, easy. It's the only normal summon I play in the deck. And then on top of that, on normal summon, draws a card, just like every other Flower Cardian. If it's a Flower Cardian, I keep it. If not, send it to grave. Once per turn, also, soft once per turn. When this card is destroyed by a card effect or by battle, and sent to grave, you also draw a card. This one you do get to keep. So yeah, only normal summon in the deck. Then one of the best cards in the deck, Cherry Blossom with Curtain. Cannot be normal summoned or set. Most of them have this restriction. Must be special summoned by its own effect. I can reveal this card in my hand, draw one card, and if it's a Flower Cardian, I get to special this. Otherwise, I send this card and that card to grave. This is also an honest for the deck. During either player's damage step, when your Flower Cardian monster battles an opponent, you can discard this card. The battling monster gains 1,000 attack until the end of this turn. That effect doesn't come up too often. Of course, it's nice to have if I ever need it, but in most cases, it's irrelevant. You just really use it for a free special and draw, you know? Most of this deck, we just end up going plus fucking 40. Deck out on the first turn anyways, all right. Next, other good card in the deck. Flower Cardian Peony with Butterfly. This is one of the two tuners I play in the deck. This is the main tuner though. Just like with every other Flower Cardian, I can special summon this by tributing. Well, this one actually has a similar effect with the big boys, which I'll get into in a second. I can special summon this card by tributing a Flower Cardian I control, except itself. And when this card is special, I get to draw one card. And if it's a Flower Cardian, I can stack the top 3 cards in my opponent's deck on top and bottom, which is pretty fun most times. And I resolve this more than once in a turn, typically. So I get to stack it pretty hard. And then on top of that, when this card is used as a synchro material, I can treat it and every other synchro material used as a level 2. That is very important because everything in the Flower Cardian extra deck is 4. Well, I don't think it goes down to 4. It goes 6. It goes 6, 8, 10, I believe. But we'll get there in a second. Anyways, yeah, main 2 in the deck. Gotta play it at 3. You kind of need it. Very important. All right, then we're gonna get into one card that I'm actually not super fond of, but people don't know how to read cards, so you typically get it off. Flower Cardian Paulownia. Now, while I control a level 11 or lower Flower Cardian monster, I can special summon this card from my hand. That's how most of these are going to read in regards to their level, since this one's a 12. Also, I can't normal summon or special summon any monsters for the rest of this turn except Flower Cardian monsters. So what makes this card really fun is when this card is targeted for an attack, I can negate the attack in the battle phase and then draw one card. Now, you would think people would know how to read, but people see Flower Cardians and immediately think trash, garbage. It's not worth anything. So they'll attack into this card, and I'll just get the fucking draw and end their battle phase, and they're just completely stunned out of nowhere because they didn't take the time to read their opponent's cards. So yeah, the reason I played at 3 is for that and for other reasons, which I'll get to in a second. But yeah, this card is it's dumb. It just does stupid shit. I love it. All right, now we're going to get into one of the most important cards in the deck. Definitely a top 2, top 3 type situation in terms of monsters. Flower Cardian Willow. While I control a level 10 or lower Flower Cardian monster, I can special summon this card from my hand with the restriction. Then once per turn, soft once per turn, you can target one Flower Cardian monster in your graveyard, shuffle it into the deck, then draw one card. Insane. Card draws you 5 or 6 times a turn. Comboing with Desynchro and everything else, with all the draw power you have in this deck, literally the whole deck is nothing but draw power. You draw insane amounts with this card. This card's insane. Played at 3, played at any less, you're tripping, all right? Now, one of my least favorite cards in the deck, Zebra Grass. While you control level 7 or lower, with the restriction, if this card is normal or special summoned, you can reveal any number of Flower Cardian monsters in your hand, shuffle them into the deck, then draw the same numbers of cards. The same number of cards. Now, while this effect has been good on a lot of cards printed before, it doesn't really come up too often in this deck. With you drawing as much as you do, you typically get what you want. Very occasionally, maybe once a duel, I'll use this effect just to see what I can get. But in most cases, I'll typically just end up not using this card. It's just really fodder for the big spell in the deck. But yeah, a Zebra Grass. All right, now we're going to get into the ones that aren't so plussy or special summon themselves. I'll throw an effect. And by the way, all the special summons effects are effects that activate. So your opponent can negate them, which does kind of suck, but it doesn't come up too often, fortunately. Anyways, yeah. So this is Flower Cardian Clover with Boar. This is one that cannot be normal summoned or set. It can be special summoned by tributing one Flower Cardian monster except itself. And if this card is special summoned, draw one card. If you do, show it. And if it's a Flower Cardian, destroy one monster your opponent controls, otherwise send it to grave. This card single-handedly clears boards. With all the recycling you are doing with this, I'm special summoning this card all the time, so I can pop all my bonus monsters and it doesn't target, which is also really cool because you don't see that too often these days. So yeah, I played at 3 because removal is important, especially monster at this point. So I use this card's effect a lot. So yeah. Destroys your opponent's monsters. And then we have Maple with Deer. Now, Maple with Deer is the spell and trap version of this card. I played it 2 because I really don't see as much back row. The format is becoming a little bit more back row these days, so I'd probably end up siding in 1 if necessary. But I prefer the 3-2 ratio between Clover with Boar and Maple with Deer. All right, now we're getting into the monsters that I'm not super fond of, but I play because they're a little bit more win more. We have Flower Cardian Willow with Calligrapher, which is one of the only other tuner I play. Must be special summoned from my hand by tributing 1 level 11, which means the actual Willow, which is how these ones works. These ones work. Yeah, so you're going to end up tributing Willow to summon this card. But I don't summon it very often. I only played it 1. Of course, I'll see it most times, but it's not really super relevant. If this card is special summon, draw 1 card, and if I do show it, then I can special summon it if it's a Flower Cardian monster, which is how these big ones work. I only played 2 of them. Otherwise, send it to grave. And then when this card is used as synchro material, everything else can be used as a level 2, including itself. So yeah. And then we play 1 Flower Cardian Pine with Crane, which is the big boy version of Pine, obviously. Cannot be normal summoner set. Must first be special summoned from your hand by tributing 1 level 1, except itself. And then if this card is special summoned, draw 1 card. If it's a Flower Cardian, I can special summon it. You don't have to. Same thing with the Calligrapher. Otherwise, send it to grave. And then at the end of the battle phase, if this card battled, draw 1 card. I play these because they're one of the very few beat sticks in this deck, being at 2,000. These two, and then I believe, yeah, and then Cherry Blossom is the other beat stick. It's also the Honest. So I like them because they are 2,000 bodies. That's really important since most monsters in this deck either have 100 attack or 1,000 attack. But yeah, that's these. They also have big boy versions of Palowina and Zebragrass, but I don't really like these enough to play all of them at one. I just really like this one because the draw one, and this one because it's just another tuner. But yeah. All right, that's enough of the monster lineup. Now we're going to go into the spells. So first one we got up is Recard Nation. Probably most insane card in the deck. Target one Flower Cardian monster in your graveyard. Add it to hand, then you can switch summon one Flower Cardian monster from your hand, ignoring its summoning conditions. So that the first effect alone is just insane. And then the secondary effect, which is the really insane one, if this card is sent to the graveyard by a Flower Cardian monster's effect, which means if you whiff it off their effects, you can excavate the top 5 cards of your deck, and if you do, you can add one excavated spell/trap to your hand, place the others on top in any order. That is insane. This is one of the best card to whiff in the deck, because when you send, you effectively just get to take one spell and trap off the top of your deck, top 5, and then put the rest back. So it also plus giving you a spell. I don't play any traps. You also get to stack your deck, which is insane. And the first effect is just reborn, so you know, insane. Then we're gonna go on to the next flower stacking. This lets you stack the top 3 cards of your deck with 3 Flower Cardian monsters with different names. That is very important, obviously, since you want to draw as many Flower Cardians as possible off the monster effects, so we can make sure we resolve them all and get our synchros out. Then its secondary effect, which is a hard once per turn. You can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one Flower Cardian monster in your graveyard, add it to your hand. Recursion, you know, important, don't need to explain. Then we're going to go on to one of the most insane cards. I know I keep on saying that, but this deck has a bunch of insane cards, which makes up for the fact that it doesn't really do much. Flower Gathering. That's why I play 2 Zebragrass, even though I don't really like it. Special summon 4 Flower Cardian monsters with 100 attack and different names from your deck in attack position, but they have their effects negated. Also, they cannot be tributed for a tribute summon, which never comes up. You can only activate one of this card per turn, and you cannot normal special summon other monsters during the turn you activate this except Flower Cardian monsters. So this card just sets up your field. Easy. The issue is that if you don't draw it turn 1, it typically ends up being dead. Which is why I used to play it at 3. But I realized that this card can end up being a lot more win more. And it's not really necessary, especially with Desynchro. So it's good if you draw it first turn. It could potentially still be good if you draw it while you still have other names in the deck, 4 individual names in the deck, which makes it super insane. But I don't really depend on it or anything. Still good though, of course. Last for the Flower Cardian spell and traps. This one actually doesn't have flower in the name. It's called Super Kokoi. Activate the top 3 cards of your deck and special summon as many Flower Cardian monsters among them as possible, ignoring their summoning conditions, but the levels become 2 when they have their effects negated. Banish the remaining cards face down, and if you do, lose 1,000 for each. Then you can banish this card from your graveyard and tribute 1 monster, special summon 1 Flower Cardian monster from your hand, ignoring its summoning conditions. You can only activate this card once per turn. So this is cool if you're in a losing spot, if you just didn't get enough to pop off, so that you can special summon more. I only played it 1 for that particular reason. If I'm in a losing spot or I feel like I'm just whiffing a lot, which doesn't really happen with all the stacking effects and just how many Flower Cardians I play. And then the secondary effect is better. Lets you banish this card to special summon 1 from hand, which is super cool. You also have to tribute a monster, but it's nice. Desynchro. Insane with one of the most important cards in the extra deck. But yeah, we should all know what that one does. Bring them back from grave. Proc all their effects again. Yes. Lure of Darkness at 2. Just more draw power if I do end up missing in my first turn or I need more. They're all darks. Card Advance. Lets me stack the top 5 cards of my deck. Don't need to explain why this is good. I can also tribute summon 1 monster in addition to my normal summoner set, but that doesn't come up. Then Rhoda, so that I can search the normal summon or his big boy, but that doesn't happen very often. All right, that is the main deck. Now we're going to get onto the extra deck. First card is Flower Cardian Light Shower. It was the first one they got. It's really good. If I had more than one, I don't anymore, I'd play it at 2. Your opponent cannot target Flower Cardian monsters with I control with card effects. Also, those monsters cannot be destroyed by card effects during your opponent's draw phase. If they draw a card during their normal draw, burn them for 15. Once per turn during your opponent's end phase, activate one of these effects. Skip the draw phase of your next turn. This card has its effects negated until your opponent's next standby phase. Drawing obviously isn't quite as important in this deck since all the effects draw. So that's super cool. It's also 3,000 protection on all your Flower Cardians. And it burns for 15, which that's wild. So yeah, it's really good. Then the most important card in the extra deck, Moonflower Viewing. Every time this card is special summoned, or no, once per turn during your main phase, you can draw 1 card, and if you do, show it. Then if it's a Flower Cardian, you can special summon it, ignoring its summoning conditions. They can attack directly this turn. If you activated this effect, skip the draw phase of your next turn. When this card is used as synchro material, since it's a tuner, it has that same tuner effect. They all become level 2. This card draws you so much. So much. It is wild, it is good, and everybody should love this card. 3 may be a bit excessive, but good God, do I love summoning this monster. It lets me draw, and then I can tune with it. So I can easily get it off field, especially in Link format, which makes it super awesome. Can't wait until MR 4.5, but yes, this card's good. Draws you a lot. It doesn't make you discard if you draw, which is the main plus to drawing off of this particular card. And then with Desynchro, bring them all back, use all their effects, summon this back out again, draw more. I should need to explain that. Then we have Light Flare, which I actually play at 2. Never summon 2, barely ever summon it. 5,000 Big Boy. Once per turn during either player's turn, when your opponent activates a spell/trap card, you can negate the activation if you do destroy that card. For Flower Cardian monster you control battles an opponent's monster, that opponent's monster has its effects negated during the battle phase only. If this face-up synchro summon monster is destroyed by battle or leaves the field because of your opponent's card effect while I control it, you can special summon 1 Flower Cardian synchro monster from your extra deck except itself. This is good because negation, but it's not worth the 5 materials. Its effect that lets you get back, or lets you summon the extra deck synchros, Flower Cardians, is really good. Just if it is destroyed, but I mean, I don't summon this super often. It also becomes a bit of an Archimedes for all your Flower Cardian monsters, but it doesn't really come up. By the time you've summoned this, if you really need that effect, you just never will. So yeah, it's cool. I summon it on occasion. 5,000 attack, that's huge. Then my favorite synchro, Borderfly. People sleep on this card. It is Dweller. For Flower Cardian monster you control attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing battle damage. Once per turn, you can banish 1 Flower Cardian monster from your graveyard until the end of your opponent's next turn. Your opponent cannot activate effects of cards in the graveyard. Also, they cannot special summon monsters from their graveyard. This lasts until I activate this turn 1. This lasts until the end of their next turn. It is an Abyss Dweller that you can... It's archetypal Abyss Dweller. I don't need to explain to anybody why Abyss Dweller is insane these days. And most cards, or most decks in the meta, do a lot of graveyard interaction. This card shuts it all off. It's insane. Most times I'll try to summon this first turn and pass on it, to be honest. Because 90% of the time, you just end up killing your opponent's whole entire strategy. So, yes. Really nice. So that's pretty much it. The rest of the extra deck is just Cherry's targets, to be honest. And it's old Cherry's targets because I haven't really updated it, you see. But, yeah, and the side deck is also really up to interpretation. I don't really play too much in the side deck. I make one if I need it, obviously for big tournaments, but it's up to interpretation. If y'all want a side deck, obviously I can make one for y'all if y'all like. and put it into a different video. But yeah, this is my Flower Cardian deck profile. I've been fiddling with this deck for years, and it's honestly it's my second favorite deck of all time, behind Raid Raptors. Woo! Yeah, but anyways, yep. This is Lionel with Scoop Squad, and I'm signing off.